Hey guys, I think I'm live on here. It just told me I had connection problem. I want to just share with you those things in life that are uncomfortable. For me, I suffer with chronic pain. I have every day since November 3rd, 1997. For some of you, I have a friend who everybody in her life is negative and says hurtful things to her. It might be that you feel like nothing is going right in your life. Whatever those tough things are that are in your life, know that God is doing something through that. He's growing us. So if we think about Philippians 4:10 through 19, this is during a time where Paul was in prison. And he writes in there, I'm just going to read a couple of verses. I'm not going to read all of those. I'm going to read 11, 12, and 13. And he says, not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned in whatsoever state I am therewith to be content. So being content and being happy about something that's going on in your life are two very, very different things. We can be content in what God has going in our life or what God has allowed in our life, but that doesn't mean we have to be happy about it. And so he says, not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned in whatsoever state I am therewith to be content. I know both how to be abased and I know how to abound. Everywhere and in all things I am instructed both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. Through the years, the beginning, many, many, many years, until just the last 6 years, I struggled with where God had me. Why was I Paul with a thorn in my side? I'd cry out to God and he wouldn't remove it from me. I'm so thankful that he didn't remove this thorn in my flesh. You know why? Because it allows me to draw closer to him. It allows me to rely on his strength. Hey, Kathy, and not my own. The person that he is growing me to become by having this chronic condition is much more of a beautiful person than I could have ever become on my own power or own strength. And so I wanted to just encourage you that we don't have to be happy about what we're going through, but we can be content in where God has us. And I can't give you the exact plan of how I got there, other than it was staying in my worship music. It was staying in prayer. It was staying in my Bible reading. It was surrendering to him. That's when things really changed, is when I finally surrendered to him and say, okay, God, this is what it is. I am who I am, and you're going to do with me what you will. I'm putting my health and my life in your hands. And that's when I really started to find contentment. Does that mean that I don't struggle every single, not every single day, but does that mean I struggle on days where I cry out to him and say, Lord, take this from me. I don't want to be this way anymore. Lord, I need a break. I need a reprieve. Absolutely, that happens. There was a couple of days last week that I did that I was just in excruciating pain and nothing was helping, not my oils, not anything. And so I cried out to him. And what did he do for me? He gave me 2 days of very little pain. Was that totally 100% pain-free? No, it wasn't. But it was enough to give my soul and my body a reprieve to where I felt like I could take on the chronic pain again. I can't give you an answer why you're going through whatever it is that you are going through. But when we cry out to God, he's there for us. He wants to help us. Did you know that Jesus, when he was here on earth, he had to go through a lot of the same physical things that we go through, hunger and being tormented and being beaten and things that we actually haven't gone through. So I always think, okay, well, Jesus didn't know what it was like to have chronic pain. Well, yes, he did. Look what he did on the cross for us. So he understands our pain and he wants us to cry out to him. So I just wanted to read a couple of other little things. So so let me just read this. Today's passage represents an interesting paradox. Paul promises the Philippians that God will supply all of their needs. And he does. He meets all of my needs. It may not look the way that I think it should look, but God is God and he sees the big picture as to where I can only see right in front of me. To reconcile these two statements, let's consider God's divine viewpoint. Paul wrote these words from a prison cell, a great place of physical distress. From a human perspective, we might all agree that God should have provided for the apostle by relieving his suffering. A lot of times we think, Lord, I don't want to keep suffering. You should just relieve me of this suffering. But that's not how God looks at things. He looks at things from the whole picture. He looks at who he's growing you into becoming and the things that he is setting you up to do for his kingdom. And so he can't necessarily, he can, but he chooses to not take those things from us because he sees the betterment that it's going to have for us and the growth, the personal growth. Had he taken this away from me years ago, where would I be? I'd be relying upon my own strength still, and I'd be doing things that I shouldn't be doing with my life like I did for so many years. But instead, the Lord taught him contentment in this difficult situation. Although his physical discomfort remained, a greater need for a changed attitude was met. That's a lot of times is just our attitude needs a change, and its perception of how we look at things. So this friend of mine who has all of those negative things in her life, I am so sorry for her. I wish I could change that for her. I wish I could tell the people that are being that way with her what they're doing to her. But the thing of it is that she has to learn to stand on her own feet, and she can still choose to see this, that God is using these people to make her a stronger person. And she can also set healthy boundaries for herself. So if I were to step in and try to fix it for her, it's not going to help her do what she needs to do. And it's not going to allow God to do what he needs to do for her. So a change of heart toward ongoing suffering is a huge challenge. A change of heart is a huge challenge. On our own, it's impossible, but the Lord promises to strengthen us through Christ. By living in dependence and submission on him, we gain his power to overcome our negative, sinful attitudes and learn contentment in all kinds of situations. Our problem is not that the Lord won't provide for us, but that we so often fail to understand what our deepest needs are. I don't know what my deepest needs are. He does, and that's why he allows this chronic pain condition in my life. He's growing me. He's doing something huge. He's doing something mighty for me that I'm going to be able to do for his kingdom one day. And I have a glimpse, I think, of what that's going to be, but I'm sure it's going to be exceeding abundantly above anything I could ever ask or think, and it's going to blow my mind. God sees from an unlimited perspective and works for our eternal good, providing for us according to his good purposes for the limitless supply of his riches and glory. Instead of pleading to God for him to take away your difficulty, ask him for strength and a new perspective. Ask him for his strength. Cry out to him for his strength and his perspective. We see it from a very limited human perspective. He sees it from the Almighty God perspective, the creator of heaven and earth. He sees everything. And so he knows exactly what we need. Although he may not always deliver you from trials, and he may not, and he won't at times. I know that from a personal experience. You can count on him to help you learn contentment no matter what your external needs may be. So I'm content in where I am. I'm not always happy about it, but my needs are always met too. He takes very good care of me. So what is that one thing that you are just fighting him on? What is that one thing that you just keep crying out to him for him to remove from you? Instead of asking him to remove it, ask him to give you his perspective and his contentment and see what happens, because it's truly amazing and it's truly freeing to be in that place. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Have a beautiful day. I hope this is a blessing to you. God bless.